Hello again, Sandwich. My name is Greg Anderson, and we are presenting the candidates to you. And we're talking, we could be going with a Donald Trump, we could be going with a Hillary Clinton, we could be looking at candidates from all ends of the spectrum. But here, let's focus on our town, our community. With me today is Jim Pierce. Full disclosure, Jim and I sit on the Council on Aging Board of Directors together.
That we do.
That we do, and we have a good time, and of course the public's always welcome to attend those. But here today, we're shifting the focus to a campaign that Jim has launched where he is running for school committee. So let's take a little bit of time, Jim, and I have to commend you, and I said it to you earlier, the content on your website and Facebook. You have a lot of very good material about you. For those who have not had a chance to look at your website, tell us a little bit about you and what brings you to wanting to run for school committee in Sandwich.
As you mentioned about the website, I actually put that website up 9 years ago, or 7 years ago, when I first ran for selectman. The idea being to go on record about a lot of issues. So
Yeah.
that, as you're right, there's about 70 articles that I've written for either the Enterprise, Cape Cod Times, a couple of entertainment pieces, one about my great-grandmother and one about a fictional journey from Forestdale over to East Sandwich on a rainy night that were for the Sandwich 375 book. So there's a lot of material there. I hope people will go to the website. Maybe we can talk Paula into putting that across the bottom of the screen someplace.
Yeah, we'll definitely, we'll put that up on the screen. It is Jim Pierce for Sandwich, the number 4.
That's right.
What brings you to...
It's .org, in case you don't go
.org, yes.
.com because you won't get it.
Exactly. That will be some other Jim Pierce.
Yeah, maybe. So why am I involved in Sandwich Town politics? The simple reason is I have 3 grandsons growing up in Sandwich. 7 years ago, they were in 3rd grade, 1st grade, and preschool. Somehow, they managed to get 7 years older. Now they're in 10th grade, one at Upper Cape, and one just going into becoming part of the class of 2020 at Sandwich High School.
Wow.
And the other one all kinds of excited about the electives he'll get to take when he enters the STEM Academy from 6th grade next year. So I don't know how they got 7 years older, and I didn't, but somehow I was exempt.
That happens. That happens to grandparents, I guess. Yeah. So their involvement in school brings you to wanting to contribute to the school.
Yeah, and it was fortuitous that 7 years ago I picked up the Enterprise and there was a little gray box that said nobody wanted to run for selectman. So I called up my friend Jack Gilson, who passed away not too long ago, and I said, "Jack, do you think I could do this job?" And he said, "Sure, you'd be great at it."
Yeah.
So I was able to walk in uncontested at that time.
Yeah.
And
that was in 2009.
Yes. And I spent 6 years, and then I did not get reelected last year.
Yeah.
And shortly after the election, John Paradise called and asked if I'd like to write a column for the Enterprise, and I said, "Yeah, sure."
Yeah.
And so I've done that, and I believe every column that I had published in the Enterprise is up on my website.
On your website.
Yeah, it's probably not a good idea for a politician to be on the record with all the stuff I'm sure if you go on the website, if you're looking for reasons to vote for me, you'll find them.
Yeah.
If you're looking for reasons to not vote for me, you'll probably find them too.
You'll find them too.
I'm just hoping you'll find more of the former and less of the latter.
Yeah. So I am a resident of Sandwich. I am interested in how the school system is operating on, and I'm using an example here. My children are not in this school system, but I do have children, and I know what it's like to be a parent, really wanting to know the future of the schools, who's kind of behind it. I have family members that have been on school committees in the past. It's a very important role for parents and for the community to have a good school committee. How is the school committee, if you could kind of rate the school committee now, how would you rate it?
Well, every one of them, including my 2 opponents, are good people. They are there because they want to contribute. So I'm not running against anybody. But if you think back to a year ago when the current school committee was sworn in, 4 of them were brand new at it. 2 had 1 year's experience, and 1 had 5. So they're good people. They want to do good by the school system, but they haven't really been up to their neck in it for as long as they might have been.
Yeah.
You know, as I said, I got into Sandwich politics because I had the grandchildren in the school system, and I think I've missed either 3 or 4 meetings since February of 2009, and just guessing that they meet every 2 weeks.
Say that one more time. That's worth noting.
Okay, I've only missed 3 or 4. I lost count of the school committee meetings, the public school committee meetings that have occurred since February of 2009. Now,
Yeah.
if they meet twice, we meet twice a month, then they've had about 170, 180
Yeah.
meetings over that time period.
Yeah.
Now, I don't go to these meetings because because you know I don't enjoy going to meetings.
Yeah. Right. Right.
But I go because I think communications is defined as at least 80% listening, at least 10% observing, and that leaves less than 10% for talking.
Right.
Now, I speak occasionally at public forum, and when I spent 5 years as the selectman's liaison to the school committee, and occasionally, when it came to the part of the meeting where it says, does the selectman's liaison have anything to say, I did have something to say.
Yeah.
But mostly it's listening and observing. Now, as good as Sandwich cable television is, observing on television, you only see the speaker. Being in the room, at least I think, I learn a lot by how people are listening to the other speakers. You don't see that on the screen. So it's all about communication, and communication is much more about, I guess the catchphrase would be, I learn a hell of a lot more with my eyes and ears open and my mouth shut.
Yes.
And so I try to apply that.
Yeah. Well, that's what they always say. There's a reason why God gave you 2 ears and only 1 mouth.
Oh, I did.
Yeah, you like that?
Yeah, I like that. Yeah, I like that. I'll steal that if you don't mind.
Yeah, but it's yours. It's yours. So when you look at a vote for Jim Pierce, what does that mean to the voter? Why a vote for Jim Pierce? Would that be a good thing?
All right. I'm very familiar with the players in the school system. I'm on a first name basis certainly with all the members of the staff. I've been a co-worker with Dr. Canfield for the 5 years that he's been here. In fact, we are friends, there's no doubt about that. But I know the people. I certainly know the numbers. I know how the school budget was put together. I know the program of teaching and learning that is behind that budget. From my 6 years on the Board of Selectmen, I know the numbers on the municipal side of the house as well. And I know how those sets of numbers fit together. I have been instrumental in trying to keep the balance between the school budget and the municipal budget on track. I find it a little strange that that some want to shift money from the schools to the town budget or the municipal budget, because that's what's been going on for the last 10 years. The school budget, the one number that is controllable by the Board of Selectmen and the school committee, that's the local contribution to the schools, has been essentially flat for the last decade.
Okay.
And the municipal operating budget has been slowly increasing. Why isn't that showing up more forcefully than it is? Well, over that same time period, students going out of district to Upper Cape Regional Technical School and to the Sturgis Charter School have been They take money with them. Now, the last thing I want to see happen in Sandwich is any stigma attached to parents and students making a choice to go to Upper Cape or Sturgis or any place else. Individual students only get one shot at a high school education, and the parents, the family has to make the right decision for that student. So we can't try to put roadblocks between people making those choices
Right.
and those choices. The only alternative we have is to make Sandwich High School the right choice for them, for the most students.
Right.
So that's where I'll be putting emphasis, is how do we keep the program at Sandwich High School competitive with some of the other, particularly those two institutions.
Right.
The numbers are, we have 2,800 students at in the Sandwich school system. We have 600 students, or 599 if you want to be precise, who are going to other institutions. Now, 180 of them are going to Sturgis, and 130 of them are going to Upper Cape. So that's 310, so about half are going to those institutions. And they're taking $5.4 million with them.
Yeah. So, so if I am a parent who opts to not send my child to Sandwich High School, what would your argument be to keep me here?
Well, I can speak personally from one particular case. And,
Yeah.
my older grandson, Drew, is on the honor roll at Upper Cape Technical School. 2 years ago, he and his parents made the choice for him to go to Upper Cape because the engineering program at Sandwich High School was incredibly limited. Now, in the 2 years that have elapsed since then, Project Lead the Way has been introduced to Sandwich High School. This coming fall, there will be a biomedical strand, they call it. That means just a string of courses that will be introduced in Sandwich High School. Drew's parents and Drew made exactly the right choice for him. He, like his grandfather, knew he wanted to be in engineering or science when he was 14. All kids aren't in that fortunate position, and I figure I was fortunate because the choice worked for me.
Yeah.
And I'm certainly expect the choice to work for Drew. So again, the parents know their student,
Right.
and they know what will fit that student.
Right.
So I wouldn't put a lot of energy into trying to talk a parent out of making that choice. I would say, look at what we offer in Sandwich.
Right.
If you look at the offering in performing arts and visual arts, the athletic program, the choral music program, the term used to be, I don't know if it's still in use or not, but the term to describe it was a well-rounded education. I don't think that the other institutions offer those things. Now, if a parent or a student doesn't attach value to those things, well, fine, they should make the right choice for that family.
Yeah.
But Sandwich High School does offer things that the other institutions don't.
Yeah.
And I've got in the budget binder that was handed out to the selectmen and the finance committee, along with the school budget, there's a single sheet or a two-sided sheet that says, it shows how many students, or the percentage of students from Sandwich that were admitted to four-year colleges. I think that's in the middle 70s someplace. The percentage that went on to two-year colleges, that's another 10, 12, 14%. And also the students that went on to successful careers in the military or successful careers in some other area of endeavor. I don't remember if the dropout rate is mentioned there, but that's a criterion that a lot of school districts are measured on. In Sandwich, 2 students is 1%.
Yeah.
And so,
Yeah, right.
so it's I think that the official number is under 1%, so it means 1 or 2 students decides that they don't want to continue to a high school diploma in Sandwich or any place else.
When you're looking at becoming a part of the school committee, You've clearly stated that among your goals or your areas of focus would be making the schools as attractive to parents as possible. But you also talked about the money. In any municipality, there is a lot of sensitivity to how money is spent. Go a little bit deeper in that. How do you feel, and we're going to talk about some of the leadership changes that are going on within the school system, but talk a little bit more about the budget, about the money that is being allocated to the school systems.
Mhm. Well, there is one controllable, if you like, number. It's the local contribution to the school system.
Mm-hmm.
That number has been increasing. It's been increasing in spite of the fact that enrollment has been decreasing.
Mm-hmm.
And the reason that it's increasing in spite of the enrollment trend is that the enrollment decline has been spread out over 15 years. So what you have is a drop from the peak in 2001, 2002 of 4,200 to where we are now with about 2,800. So over that 15 years, how do I put this? The employees of the school system are clinging to the idea that they should be paid what they're worth, and that their buying power shouldn't be declining just because enrollment is declining. So
Mm-hmm.
what you have is inflationary pressures for compensation are offsetting the decline in enrollment.
Mm-hmm.
Now it's also necessary to differentiate between education expenses in district and education expenses outside the district.
Mm-hmm.
If you
Explain that. Explain that a little bit.
when we send students out to Upper Cape Tech or to Sturgis, their state legislation dictates that the town of Sandwich is still responsible for educating those students, for paying for their education.
Mm-hmm.
Now, if you look at the projections for the FY17 budget, the assessment from Upper Cape will be $2.2 million. Divide that by 130 students, and you're just under $17,000 per student. The projection of tuition for Sturgis is $3.2 million. Divide that by 180 students, you're talking $17,000 per student. If you go to the Department of Elementary and Secondary Education's website and look at the numbers for what are we paying to educate students in Sandwich, you have to be a little careful because there's two numbers in there. One is in-district, and one is the weighted average of in-district and out-of-district.
Mm-hmm.
So I've heard the number of 15,012 tossed around. That's including the $17,000 each
Mm-hmm.
for the students at the two institutions where we pay tuition. If you look at just in-district, it's $14,500, give or take a few bucks. So we're paying $2,500 a student more for each one that we send outside. Now, again, let me emphasize again, the parents are making the right decisions.
Right.
We should not interfere with those decisions. What's appropriate for the individual student is what should be happening. But just the incremental cost of sending 320 students to outside districts is about $800,000 a year.
Mm-hmm.
So, again, the more attractive we make Sandwich, the smaller that number becomes. That's money we have to spend in district to do things like Project Lead the Way, which
Right.
increased the engineering offering at
Right.
Sandwich High School. Maybe we got an IT offering that we could give. Maybe we got a nursing program we could
Yeah.
give. There's ways to compete successfully and make Sandwich more attractive.
I'm a student. I am a teacher. I'm using a fictitious story because
Hypothetically.
hypothetically, yes, I am not a teacher. But if I were a teacher, I'll ask the same question. What does a vote for Jim Pierce mean to me?
The Sandwich High School has, the whole school district has a terrific cadre of teachers.
Undoubtedly.
Yeah,
Undoubtedly.
If we didn't believe this before, Fortunately, or unfortunately, in their infinite wisdom, the Department of Elementary and Secondary Education has given us a mandate, an unfunded mandate, by the way, that says we have to evaluate our teachers on a presumed to be objective scale of some sort. Well, we've gone through that, and if we didn't believe we had a terrific group of teachers to start with, now we've got data that proves it.
Yeah.
So it's we need to reward those people. We need to keep them on the payroll, but we also need to let them. I think by and large they understand already that if the contract under which we operate, a contract which has to be honored, increases the payroll beyond the roughly 3.7% that the town's revenue increases every year, that puts the squeeze on everything else.
Mm-hmm.
So we have terrific teachers. They should be paid what they're worth, but they should understand that you can't break the bank with the contract
Mm-hmm.
and expect things to stay on the track that they are.
Yeah. So the fiscal, your fiscal eye, I mean, knowing you a little bit and just reading your website and all that you offer up and your experience, I mean, you are a man that comes with experience in managing people and managing large budgets and being accountable for large budgets. You have a discipline that's very comfortable for you, or not, I'm assuming your answer would be yes, for you to be plowing through all of the budgetary issues and managing that process. That's something that's kind of in your wheelhouse, correct?
Exactly.
Okay.
Yes. Yeah.
Let's talk a little bit about Dr. Canfield. The superintendent will be leaving. School committee's obviously going to be very much a part of that process. Talk to me a little bit about how you see that going forward and what does it mean to the school system?
Mm-hmm. Well, I guess I don't think he'd mind my saying this, but when 5 years ago, when Dr. Canfield was hired, I was among those that chatted with him about what the expectations were in that job. And I was quite frank with him. I said, I'm worried that you're only 3 or 4 years younger than I am, and I'm already retired. Are you here to work?
Yeah.
And he said,
fair question.
Yeah. And he said, absolutely. And he's been consistent in this since that first time I sat down with him. Mm. He said, I'm going to work as long as I'm healthy and happy and able to make a difference. Now, he is still healthy, fortunately. I asked him that question, this isn't a health-related thing, is it? And he said, absolutely not. He is extremely happy with the results of what he's done here, and particularly the interactions with students and individual teachers and his staff. But he felt that there was a dramatic shift in how the district was being managed that came on with the change in the school committee last summer. Mm-hmm. The professional educators' opinions were kind of pushed into the background in his opinion, and that restricted his ability to make a positive difference. Mm-hmm. And he finally reached the conclusion that wasn't going to change, so this wasn't the place for him to continue working. Mm-hmm. I think that's extremely unfortunate. I was heavily involved in the process that made some dramatic changes in the Sandwich School District. The last thing a superintendent wants to get involved in is closing a school and redistricting. Mm-hmm. Some superintendents will avoid that at all costs. That's serious work.
Yeah.
So he brought on the STEM Academy, moved the 7th and 8th graders into the same building with the high school without intermixing them beyond what might have been appropriate.
Yeah.
I see again, I have my own grandson, Drew, who is 8th grade now, will be in Sandwich High School next fall, who he got comfortable in the building. He took electives with high school teachers, got comfortable with the staff.
Mm-hmm.
Just, I think last week or the week before last, they handed out shirts that have, I think they say BKP for Blue Knight Pride on the front,
Mm-hmm.
and on the back they say "We are 2020." He is definitely part of the class of 2020.
Yeah.
One of the things they've done right, in my estimation, is they have the transition from middle school to high school is still a significant event in his growing up,
Sure.
but it's been made as seamless and comfortable as possible in order to encourage him and his peers to stay in Sandwich.
Yeah. Getting back to the change in the superintendent's position. You're going to be going forward, if you're on the school committee, in replacing that. Lessons learned, what is the school committee going to be drawing on from its past experiences to find the right fit?
Well, first let me say that I'm comfortable with what the current school committee is doing. I've had people ask me the question, why are they rushing to get this done before the election? That doesn't trouble me at all. They're selecting an interim superintendent. The criteria that I have been to, I think 4 out of 5 or 3 out of 4 meetings of the interim selection subcommittee. They've got the right criteria in mind. They want somebody who will give us continuity, somebody who won't try to introduce more change, will allow the dust to settle a little bit, consolidate the gains that we've already made, and one of the things they've emphasized is that whoever the interim superintendent is needs to feel ownership for the FY18 school budget. I'm hoping, again, and if I am successful in the election, we need to put the FY18 budget on the school committee's agenda, perhaps not at our first meeting, but no later than our second meeting.
Right, right.
And the town charter calls for a meeting of the Finance Committee and the Board of Selectmen to examine the assumptions underlying the budget. And that meeting is supposed to happen on or before June 15th. Now, the school committee should be prepared to make input to those budget assumptions at that budget assumption meeting. This past budget cycle was the first time that meeting was called for by the town charter. It didn't happen until July, and I don't think the purpose of the meeting was fully understood by those participating.
How so?
Well, I forget now whether it was 3 or 4 of the 9 Finance Committee members that showed up, but it was not a quorum. Now, that doesn't indicate an understanding of the importance of that meeting. Because he had no better information to act on, Mr. Dunham put a 3% placeholder in the increase on the one item that is controllable, the local contribution to the schools. Now, that 3% persisted through to the guidelines meeting in December, which is also called for in the charter. And that meeting in June would have been the time for the school committee, in public forum or whatever other forum they had to get into the discussion, to say, wait a minute, 3% is not going to be enough to maintain level service in the school system. It would have been, that would have waved the red flag that maybe that placeholder wasn't correct. Now, subsequently, Mr. Dunham did exactly he did what he's been doing, what has been successful in Sandwich for the 20+ years that he's been in that position, and that is to conservatively forecast revenue and over forecast in some places, again, prudently, some of the expenses. But that budget assumption meeting would have been the place for someone to ask the question that finally got asked in December. Local receipts have been running at $5 million for the past 6 years.
Mhm.
Why are we only forecasting 4.5? Now, that could have changed the picture on how we approach the FY17 budget.
Right.
So there's a reason the Charter Review Committee put those words in the charter. And there's a reason why the charter also calls for a meeting of the superintendent and the town manager to look at where we are in the budget after we've had the state certify surplus revenue and after we know what the October 1 enrollments are.
Mhm.
Because then we can look at the assumptions, any changes we made in the assumptions, and look at what the revenue is likely to be, and make some decisions before we go into the December guidelines meeting.
Right.
Now, I can't speak for the other selectmen, but I know, the statement was made that we just do a knee-jerk and put the same amount in for municipal as we do for the schools. Well, I went back and looked at FY 13, 14, 15, 16, and the projection for 17. In none of those cases was the amount that went to the municipal government identical to the amount that went to the school budget.
So you peel the onion back.
I think that's my job.
That's your, yeah,
It's,
right.
it's how I managed 240 people in 7 countries on a $40 million budget.
$40 million budget, yeah. So Jim, the campaign is off and running. You have your website, jimpierce4sandwich.org. We're going to put the phone number up, I'm sure. That will be 508-888-5633.
5622.
Oh,
Does it say?
it says 33.
Whoops.
That's okay. I don't. Whoever is at that phone number, we're just saying
Sorry
hello
about,
now.
sorry about that.
Yeah. So again, it's 888-5622.
Correct.
Okay. The one thing to end to wrap
Before
it
you,
up.
before you go on further,
Yes.
the best way to get in touch with me is by email at hawkeyejw@aol.com. I'm on at least twice a day, usually 3 times a day,
Yeah.
and I try to keep up with an answer.
What is
everything
Hawkeye JW?
For those of you who are as old as me, or maybe not quite that old, there was a TV show called MASH.
Loved it.
The central character on MASH was Benjamin Franklin Pierce. Now, if you go into AOL and start establishing an ID as Pierce, you come up Pierce number 2698, because Pierce is just like Jones and Smith and Brown
Exactly, very
and Johnson, you know.
Yeah.
So my whole family, we started using the Hawkeye as a
Yeah.
because Benjamin Franklin Pierce's moniker was Hawkeye on MASH, so
Yeah.
it's the MASH connection is
Excellent.
all it is.
I did love that show.
Yeah.
That was a good show. Jim, I wish you good luck. I thank you for coming in.
You're very welcome.
Again, you've got all of the information that you need on his website, and you can do a little bit of investigation on your own. There's a lot to look at there. We are talking to the candidates. We're bringing them to you. The great thing about local elections like this is there's great accessibility. And Jim, thank you for making yourself more accessible, and of course through his email, hawkeyejw@aol.com, and his website. You can get in touch with Jim and have conversations with him as you see fit before the election. Jim, thank you very much.
Thank
Good
you.
luck.
Appreciate
Thank
it.
you for watching, and we'll see you next time.